Happy Valentine's Day. And in keeping with that, we were going to go with Post-its on your tables. We opted for the magnetic refrigerator pad, mainly so if you have forgotten about Valentine's Day for your significant other, just hand them this and say it's for your honey-do list and for the things to put down for. Thought that would work. Okay. All right, we move on. Oregon State Credit Union has been an annual sponsor of one of the forums each year. Tammy, thank you for this one. I appreciate the full crowd. We're 64 years young, cover 24 counties now. Membership is up to over 105,000. Our assets are now $1.2 billion. Not all bad, considering we started in a shoebox with an OSU professor on campus in 1954. Our business services team has grown. Since I got there in 2004, we had one person, about 400 accounts, and some mom and pop, lawn mowing businesses, babysitting, things like that, churches. Now we have 5,000 accounts and $140 million out. Our commercial loan officer here today is Brandon John. The others here, part of my team, hold your applause. Marion Polk and Lincoln County Regional Branch Manager Peggy Mell. Our local answer for investment services, Pat Crowell. And the same for our home loan center, Daniel Echeverry. And before I get started with our introductions, I'll introduce all three commissioners and let them transition here. But I learned a lesson last week when I did the same thing. I introduced somebody to our Rotary Club. And as I'm walking up, I realized I had my phone in my hand. And thank you for the advice to silence your phones. I did not. I had it in my pocket. And I have ESPN.com on my phone. And the timing couldn't have been more impeccable. I finished the introduction of the speaker, and just as I said, please welcome to the stage, so-and-so, da-da-dant, da-da-dant. And the speaker got up and said, I don't think I can follow that. So with that, let me introduce our commissioners. I get to start with Commissioner Sam Britano, and it's been made clear by the other two that they're very concerned that he goes first and the length of time that might be taken here. Here's the intro. Commissioner Sam Britano was first appointed to the Board of Commissioners in 2003, elected to his first term in 2004, re-elected in 8, 12, and 16. Commissioner Britano led the effort to add a community hall to the first floor of the Marion County Courthouse, featuring each of Marion County's 20 cities. Commissioner Britano served as mayor of the city of Sublimity from 1982 to 1993. He also served 20 years as a volunteer firefighter and EMT. A businessman in the solid waste disposal industry for more than 30 years, he retired in 2001 from his position as president and general manager of United Disposal Service. As a commissioner, he focuses on solid waste, emergency management, and transportation issues. He's a Beaver, and again, those others are a little concerned, but you know your time limit today. So, Commissioner Kevin Cameron was appointed to the Board of Commissioners in June of 2014, elected in November of that same year. He previously served in the Oregon House of Representatives, representing the residents of House District 19 from 2005 to 2014. Commissioner Cameron has more than 40 years of experience in hospitality industry as an employee, manager, entrepreneur, and business owner. He is an active member of the Salem community and has served in volunteer positions with Morningstar Community Church, Battle Creek Little League, OSU Alumni Board, and Corbin University, among others. As a commissioner, he focuses on economic development issues. And the coming chair of our Board of Commissioners, Janet Carlson, was elected to the board in November of 2002, re-elected in 2006, 2010, and 2014. Her accomplishments include raising community awareness around prisoner reentry and the need of community volunteers and mentors. Commissioner Carlson is a past president of the Association of Oregon Counties and served as a state representative in the Oregon legislature in 2001-2002. She taught in public schools for 10 years, was a budget analyst for the state of Oregon, and served as budget director and regional coordinator for the Oregon Commission on Children and Families. As a commissioner, she focuses on public safety and health care. And with that, we get started. Sam, you're on.
Some of this has been mentioned. It is, okay, I'll just tell you. I woke up and I thought, this is such a special day. It was snowing in Sublimity, it's Valentine's Day, and it's Ash Wednesday. And I know that later in the day I get to talk to people that care about Marion County. It has all the makings of a special day. But the snow melted. I left a nice dozen roses and a sweet note on the counter. And so far, all I've got is a smudge on my forehead to show for the entire day. And that's another thing. Could somebody tell Father my forehead is here, not here? I mean, would anyone else put up with that? I'm not making that up. So I guess I'm trying to say you're my last chance to save this day. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to start out talking about transportation things first. We've been very concerned about North County in particular this last year. Newburgh-Dundee bypass, as it was completed, putting impacts in North County and Donald Interchange, a terrible interchange to begin with and now overloaded. We made some strides. I should say that the bypass opened up about a month ago, and it was not designed to do what it does, to dump people from Yamhill County into Marion and out to Donald. So we're working hard to see that that project gets finished and it completes the loop back to 99 beyond Newburgh. But we did some things. I see our sheriff is sitting right here, and he's a big part of it, and Public Works, Alan, there you are. Two things. We had a community meeting in St. Paul. I mean, there's a couple hundred people there, and all wound up about traffic impacts and safety in the area, and what are you going to do? So we did some things. This board paid for a position just dedicated, a deputy, just dedicated to North County. It's had big impact in both holding down traffic impacts and faster response and getting reviews. We're proud of it. But then Public Works had the idea that let's go out and mark those areas that are now more of a problem than ever. And so they got bigger signs, more reflective, if that's English, rumble strips. And it's really worked. And I've got a story. I hate to say how I drive around this state, but you can fill in the gaps. But I'm coming back from Tillamook to St. Paul on a Sunday morning at 6 in the morning. And so I turn off at Donald onto McKay Road. Now, I'd been hearing about a problem with a little rise in the road and surprising people, even people that lived there. But you just can't get it till you do it yourself. So I'm on a road that I'm not used to driving, coming from a different direction. And all of a sudden, and the rumble strips went off. I slammed on the brakes, barely stopped in front of a stop sign. There was a silage truck coming either from Champoeg or Newburgh. I swear, I had to drove through and been hit. You wouldn't have to listen to me now. World might be a whole lot better. But I'm suddenly a great fan of these devices. I'm going to encourage that we put them everywhere they're appropriate in Marion County. So I'm trying to lay the case that we've been responsive and dealt with this problem. The other traffic one I want to get at, it's a little dangerous because I'm going to criticize a government here in Marion County, and we get along good with all of them, but it has to do with the third bridge. I've worked real hard with 10, 11 years trying to get an environmental impact statement out to get that done, and it's kind of languishing. We had an article presented to me it's just real interesting. Jolene Kelly found it. Here it's a Capital Journal, January 1st, 1920. Here's the headline. I really like it. Marion County enters the new year leading the state in highway development. Just as an aside, it talks about we had 400 men working. Well, no men. We're a little better now. They're working on hard surfacing 6 or 10 miles, quite an accomplishment in 1920. They're building a bridge at Mahama and one on Armsville-Turner Road. But here's what got my eye. And from the article, and it's a little hard to read, but this great work, the county's work on the roads, that means the eventual opening of all the communities, the tapping of the resources of the county, and the creation of one of the greatest market centers in the West in Salem. So here's my point. 100 years ago, people recognized that the roads that come from Marion County and Polk County too are supposed to get people and products to Salem and then to the rest of the state and perhaps the rest of the world. So why is that such a concept that's hard to do now? This bridge is a regional device. Yes, it'll have some impact on commuting in Salem, and that's wonderful. But we're behind it because we think that this area, this region, needs it to survive and thrive. So Oh, this is dangerous. A few years ago, I kind of went on a rant. I admit it, but it had to do, well, I'll get into that. When I got done, then Representative Cameron came up to me, and I don't have it word for word, but it was a general line was like, you don't want to be a commissioner much longer, huh? Yeah, so here I go again. So I'm going to tone it down a little bit. Know that however excited I may sound, in my heart, I'm a lot more excited about it. The first quote in the issue was Senate Bill 1059, and I'm just going to summarize and remind you of it. It was designed, DLCD came up with a plan, got authority from the legislature to force people out of their cars, to make it expensive and congested, slow, everything they can to make it difficult. Is that really what you want your government doing? It's certainly everything I'm opposed to. Well, it's in the books, and in fact, they now have a way to impose it on member governments in the MPO, which in this group is Salem, Marion County, Turner. So anyway, watch for that to come, and when it happens, I seem to be the only one in the world upset about it, but it isn't what we want. But this next one, he may say this isn't really a county issue. It has to do, well, I got to go through a whole thing here. I call it cap and swindle. Now, that phrase was given to me by somebody, Denise, sitting here. She said I could use it. I started with cap and tax, and she took it up a notch for me, and I just love it. That fits it. But you have to give me credit. The Democrats did the same thing. They started out with cap and trade, and then cap and invest. Well, that's better. And suddenly, it's clean air and jobs. Isn't that wonderful? But you may not think it's a county issue, but it's going to affect us all, and here's my problems with it. They, when I challenge them, what are you doing here? Oh, they raise $1.4 billion every 2 years, and that's controlled at the discretion of our legislature that's dominated by liberals from Portland. So where does their discretion send money? I don't know if I'll ever ride that mass transit thing, but maybe it'll be nice. And then, when I really challenge them, what does it go to? They can tell you how much carbon will come out of the atmosphere of all their suggestions in these two different ways. And yeah, it sounds like a big number, but then I ask, so what does it mean? And it's such a tiny percent. I said, well, can you measure it? No. Would it lower the temperature in the world or over Salem a tenth of a degree? Anything? No. So really what's happening is they're going to charge all that money. Remember, this is a base sales tax. This is money underneath. It's transportation, heating, your food, everything you buy, all goes up. And the damage to businesses certainly can't be underestimated. And they're going to do all these things, not improve the environment. And when you ask them, their answer is always, just listen for it, we have to do something. Really? You have to do all that just to make a statement? A symbolic statement? Come on. It's killing me. And I hope they'll get wise. I see articles in the paper. I know people feel different, but ask, does it really matter? And the answer is going to be no. I work on timber things. I'd like to spend a lot of time on it, but I won't. There was one, Commissioner Pope from Polk County, and I wrote an article to the Statesman a month ago or so, perhaps you saw it, having to do with the Siskiyou Monument and why we were opposed to it. And the general idea is this, that they simply tried to double the size of that monument and got President Obama, as he's going out the door to sign off. He had no authority to do it. These were mostly ONC grounds, supposed to be for timber production, jobs, revenues for counties and schools, and they just took it off the plate. And no compensation, no anything. The Statesman didn't want to print that for about a month, I might note, and then a week after it was printed, there was a environmental, what's the right word, hack job. Guy came in, tried to refute everything we said, but the reality is there's no special significance in species or geography. They drew a line on the map and they want to keep it. And we have I should say, ONC counties have a lawsuit. We think that President Trump will roll back the size of that, but that isn't adequate because then the next president come through can just change it back. So the lawsuit goes back to the act itself and tries to guarantee those lands. I left a big part out because I got excited about the bridge, and I want to finish this on the environmental impact statement, getting that done. Just yesterday, Public Works told us that we're going to get like $7.6 million in new dollars to put towards roads. President Trump came out with a $4.5 trillion. Is that right? Trillion? Oh my goodness. For infrastructure. Here's why this plan needs to be done. This should be in the bag. The opponents of the bridge have been saying all along that the federal and state government isn't going to contribute to this. This community have to bear the whole cost. Well, that isn't true. No big project in Oregon's been done by that way. But we should have this project done, and we should have our hands like that, waiting for the federal and state government to fill it up and make it happen. I'm just a few minutes longer, but I want to talk about emergency management a little bit. And the Sheriff's Department. They did a great job for us this year. Started with the Whitewater fire up above Brighton Bush and Detroit. And then all the time they're working with that, Ed Flick in our Emergency Management Department, he was involved, and the Sheriff too, right from the beginning, coordinating, getting resources, working up plans for evacuation, actually evacuating and getting people back. It was a wonderful job. At the same time, we were planning for the eclipse. And I got to tell you what, I see a few nods in here. That was the most amazing thing I've seen in my whole life. Now, I was here in '79, and there was an eclipse, and it was kind of like about as dark as that. A few birds flew by. That's great. But this time, so I wasn't expecting anything. That sun goes smaller, smaller, and then out, and then gets pitch black, and then, oh, whoop. Are you kidding me? I've never seen anything like that. In fact, I'd like to see it one more time before I'm done. But they did. We spent so much time planning for that, and I felt silly about it. It can't be that big a deal. But everything went perfectly well. The things that we had to be concerned about didn't come off. There was some crowds getting back to Portland, but we don't care about them after they leave. So anyway, Marion County's spending a lot of time working on emergency management. I'm kind of like the designated worrier for Marion County, and there's always been. I'm going to leave on a bad note. I know it, but earthquake and fire and drought, and there's pandemic. Let's not forget that one that can really upset how things happen here. There's new ones that are sad, civil unrest, and does anyone enjoy the words nuclear war floating around again? So I'm trying to tell you this, that when we know something's going to happen, Marion County's perfect. But I'm also confident for those things that could happen, we're as good as we can be, and I hope you have confidence in that. So what's a couple minutes, Janet? Just let it go. Kevin?
Sam, I took a tour of the Detroit Dam about a month ago, I think, and there's actually fallout shelters with food from 1962 in those fallout shelters, so you can go there with me when we have the nuclear attack. He worries about that stuff. I just keep going and saying, okay, how do we build a stronger economy in Marion County and beyond? And one of the things I want to draw your attention to, there's something about broadband study, and we'd love you to go and pick that up and go back to that website and take that survey. One of the things that we're doing in our strategic plan is trying to figure out where we have needs and for infrastructure in our broadband, because we know that's a really important issue coming up. So I'd like to just highlight a few of the challenges that we've taken on and maybe some of the opportunities that we've got going in the future. I think last year I talked a little bit about the North Santiam Canyon and specifically Detroit Lake. Everybody knows that in 2015 we had a drought. The lake didn't fill. Those marinas almost went belly up. 2016 we had, again, a low water year. They had to get people out. Sam and I were up at Gates with a standing room only crowd of about this size, wondering what we're going to do about it with Congressman Schrader. So we have been working with Regional Solutions, and I see James Labar over there, Regional Solutions, SEDCOR, just convening with groups. We have two phases going on up in those two marinas. Phase one is that they're going to have longer gangplanks so that they can operate during low water years. We're using lottery dollars to do that and Marine Board grants through the state. Phase two, we've hired a consultant to go through. This guy actually went through the NOAA study in Newport to figure out how we can get all the permits. You try to permit a dredging or a excavation in a lake in the state of Oregon, and you can imagine the permits and the hassle you have to go through to get that done. But we've put in $35,000 of our lottery dollars to hire this consultant, and that would be phase 2, where they'll actually excavate those marinas up there, so there'll be a longer season for those people in the recreational area. The third area up there that I want to highlight is, you've probably seen this in the paper. I know the Statesman's covered it. I was up there with Zach, the reporter, is the Army Corps and the dam and their proposal to take and put in a water mixing tower behind the dam. And it's they have no idea how they're going to supply 200,000 people with water the 2 or 3 summers that they take that dam down. So if you want to know more about that, certainly get in touch with our office, and we've got an email stream that we can keep that going. A great project. I don't know if Danielle is here from our Community Services Department, Economic Development. She is, but one of the things that she's worked on diligently is we're looking at water and sewer systems up into the canyon. Those people don't have anything but pretty much basic septic tanks, and we have made progress. We did a study, found out it's about a $92 million project to put sewer systems all the way up and down the canyon to help those people grow their economy. But we have made it a point now where Detroit, Gates, Idana, Mill City have all passed resolutions to request that Marion County assist them in a North Santiam sewer district, become a joint sewer district up there. So the next step is to move forward a little bit further with that and see what the necessary legal form would be to have that sewer district. I have a note off to the side. I don't know, I'm kind of like Sam, I don't know if I'll still be alive when the first toilet flushes up there. But you got to move it forward slowly but surely. Some of the things that other issues with when you talk about economic development, everywhere that we go, we talk about workforce, and I saw workforces here represented today, but everybody says, I need talent, I need more people, but we also need the housing for those people. So we're working with different members, obviously, with the state and others to try to see if we can do some workforce housing test. Specifically, like you take the city of Donald, where we have GK Machines, and he needs to expand, but he doesn't have the room to house people. That's one of his challenges. We helped them with their UGB expansion in the city of Donald. We actually used some of our grant dollars to make that happen. One of the things I really am excited about is our new staff that we've added this last year in our economic development. And Tom is here. Tom Hogue is our new economic development coordinator. And I know he's been around and met a lot of you in this room. We have now a strategic plan that is almost finished and what we're going to focus on. And I'll just go through a few of those areas that strategic plan will cover. The one that I think is really critical, and Chad, and we've talked about this at SEDCOR because I serve on the executive council, is how are we going to find new lands for industrial properties? Mill Creek is almost filled up. Woodburn just got theirs going on. So we need to work on identifying where those new lands are going to be for potential projects that are going to come up. The other one is the natural resource industry that we have, and Sam's referred to the wood products. But we also have a heritage here in Marion County of our agricultural heritage. And we want to make sure, because that is really, we're the #1 farm gate producer in the state of 36 counties. And we want to make sure we take that heritage and use technology and bring innovation and technology together with agriculture. I'll give you one example of where that is happening. If you go out on Cascade Highway and Silverton Falls Highway, there's a huge building just to the east of that intersection. Be careful in that intersection. You know what intersection I'm talking about. I'm sure probably had many accidents out there. About a $30 million investment. I watch these guys, and they are harvesting blueberries mechanically now, and they take them through this processor that just as fast as you can imagine, this thing can identify which blueberry is a fresh blueberry market berry, which one's going frozen, and which one's going into juice. That is the kind of technology that we're going to have to continue to invest in, and I see NORPAC here. invest in our community to make our agricultural community competitive with the rest of the world. Because that building over there, and I'm pointing to the legislature, keeps doing stuff to make it harder and harder to do business with manual labor. So we've got to find ways to invest in our technology. The other areas are is having business opportunities, and we've done that with some of our grants. I'm not going to go into the details, but we still do some business development grants through our EDAP board. And then one is fostering a great place. And how do we do that? For example, Woodburn took a $10,000 grant and made their alleyways more beautiful, where their garbage dumpsters were. Salem's been doing those types of things. And we're going to help some of the small cities where they're trying to make a better community for people to live there, help them do that so that you want to work here, you want to play here, and you want to live here. And then what is our role in this? We see our role as conveners. We're not out there knocking on business doors to come here. We need to convene the people and coordinate things to help develop that environment, advocate, and at the legislature, and I'll just tell you, right now there's a couple of bills in the legislature we're working on really hard. I was on vacation for 2 weeks, came back, and have had two 14-hour days, and I was on the phone yesterday off and on between meetings working on an airport extension bill for the Aurora Airport. 1,000-foot extension for that airport. They have 500 constrained operations a year, planes that take off or land without fuel capacity. So we need to get that done for them, and we're going to help advocate for that. Examples that we also working on, and it goes back to the waste management program that Sam just talked about, would be the waste to energy facility that we operate. We were able to get that into the renewable portfolio. If you think about it, your garbage is renewable energy. We generate enough electricity in that place to power the city, a city the size of Woodburn, out of the garbage that goes through Marion County. That's a good thing. Nobody else does that in the state. So we're working on areas like that. So I guess the last thing that I want to say is that public safety is, all three of us always put that as number one. And I said this to the group from Leadership Salem yesterday, that if you come to one of our restaurants, you know, sometimes you think, I've been in the restaurant business, and you say, why do you go there? Is it because of the food or the service? And, you know, people nod their heads. And I said, what if we just had a hepatitis outbreak? You think anybody would come? No. So public safety always has to be our number one priority as elected officials. One of the things I'm working on with the sheriff and others is a East Salem Service District, where we are looking at adding 10 patrol deputies over there, so that they would have 2 deputies in East Salem, which is a city almost the size of Woodburn if you go outside the urban growth boundary. They'd have 2 deputies 24/7 over there. They take about 80% of our calls from our deputies. That would free us up to have deputies that could serve our rural communities, which we really need and will continue to make a priority. So with that, I think that there's a lot of exciting challenges that we're meeting, but we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us, and I think with all your support and your help, we will get there. Thanks for having us.
All right, let's see how I'm going to do this, because this is right in front of my eyes. Is it this way? There we go. So that's better, I'm shorter. So thank you very much for having us today. We always love coming to SEDCOR, and when I first became a county commissioner 16 years ago, we used to do this in the senator hearing room as part of our board session. We'd go on for about an hour, and there'd be nobody sitting in the audience, just a CCTV camera. So this is a whole lot better, trust me. As the final speaker, I get to wrap up, and as was noted earlier, my focus is on health and public safety, health, mental health, and public safety. I wanted to note that as commissioners, we actually work on everything. All 3 of us work on everything, and we are elected countywide, all 3 of us. And there are some counties where people actually are liaisons for different topics, and the other 2 commissioners just defer. I learned really quickly when I came to Marion County that was not the case with our Board of Commissioners, and it's really a good thing, because as you can tell, we've got 3 different perspectives, 3 different personalities, 3 different people doing due diligence, and I think the policies and the services that we have are better for it in Marion County because of the way that we operate. I wanted, before I get into my two topics, to refer you to the booklet on your table if you haven't had a chance to look at it, the one that says Marion County Today, and want to thank Jolene Kelly for her hard work in putting this together. We usually talk about the budget, and I'm not going to spend much time talking about the budget. Instead, it's in your booklet. Our general fund budget is roughly $94 million. Our all funds budget, total fund, is about $412 million. That's for the current fiscal year. But as Kevin said, public safety is 78% of that general fund budget. That is the flexible money that we have from primarily property taxes, and the commissioners prioritize that to the tune of 78%. Health, which we're going to be talking about, is about 22% of the overall budget, or about $92 million. Or, I'm sorry, that was health is 20% and about $78.5 million. Public safety is 22% of the overall budget and about $92 million. So if you want to know where the dollars come from, where they're spent, there's a nice synopsis here, or you can go on our website, and there's a lot of detail on our website. I also wanted to point out, if you didn't notice the little logo on the front, this is our 175th birthday for Marion County. And we're going to be kicking that off in a few months and celebrating it all through the summer. We're going to go to where the festivals are all around Marion County and celebrate our 175th anniversary with everyone. So it will be fun. More on that later. So let me start with healthcare. I am concluding my second year as the board chair of Willamette Valley Community Health, and that has been definitely a big learning experience for me, and I've really enjoyed it. Willamette Valley Community Health is the coordinated care organization that serves Marion and Polk County, and we serve the members who are on the Oregon Health Plan, or Medicaid. Our most recent statistics, there's more than 81,000 members from Marion County that are on the Oregon Health Plan, and about 97,000 if you combine the two counties of Marion and Polk. We have a great board of directors. They have a lot of expertise, a lot of commitment to excellence in healthcare. We've been operating for the past year under the leadership of Rob Johnson. He is the CEO, and Nancy Rickenbaugh, who is the Chief Operating Officer. And they have worked with staff and with the board to implement a very ambitious business plan and have made a number of accomplishments this year, which has been no small thing because healthcare is facing enormous challenges in this area. First of all are the funding uncertainties, both at the state level and at the federal level. Secondly, you might have been reading about Family Care, which is a CCO, which is closing, which means that we're picking up some of those members, and also a lawsuit that is probably still going on. And then leadership changes at the Oregon Health Authority, among many other things. So a few examples of the accomplishments that we did in 2017. First of all, we revamped all of our committees and really narrowed it down. So we have a Consumer Advisory Council to get the consumer perspective, Transformation and Quality Committee, which consists of medical professionals that are actually working on improving the quality of health care, Compliance, which is a big issue when, if you've been reading the news, there's been some discussion about whether dollars have been spent legally, appropriately, that kind of thing. So compliance is very important. System of Care, which is about creating a system for very high needs kids with complex medical and mental health issues, and Finance. So our compliance staff has completed last year 21 audits and implemented a new exclusion screening program. The Coordinated Care Organization also, and you may have been reading this in the paper, opioids is a big issue. The president has declared it a public health crisis. The governor just declared it a public health crisis. And we have been offering trainings to providers, both on treating opioid dependence and discussing alternative treatment options. So we are responding to this crisis through the Coordinated Care Organization. Finally, on the CCO side, Willamette Valley Community Health has created a grant program. This is really important for several reasons. One is because healthcare is not just about going to the doctor and taking pills and having your annual checkups or whatever. When you think of what they call the social determinants of health, so things like housing, things like education, things like nutrition and exercise, things like public safety, community safety, those all influence whether or not people are healthy in their communities. And so that's important. The second thing is living in Marion County, and I've been a grant writer, and I continue to write grants for Marion County as a county commissioner. There's not a lot of granting organizations that provide funding for good community programs that address these social determinants in our area. We compete with the big foundations up in Portland, or we put in federal grants and they go to Los Angeles or Detroit or other places that have more people and have higher need. And so to be able to have a grant program here, I think is a pretty neat thing and a pretty big deal. This last year, WVCH allocated $886,000 to community programs, and in 2018, they've budgeted $2 million to allocate to programs, so that's really great. Also, I want to give kudos to our own health department. Carrie Moeller is here. She's our not so new, but relatively new director, and has really hit the ground running. They're undergoing a new strategic planning process. The health department provides public health, mental health, and developmental disability services. And they work closely with the Behavioral Care Network, which oversees mental health programs in the two counties, and Willamette Valley Community Health on health policy and system design. So now I'm going to turn to public safety. So the first area, last year I reported to you on the Mid-Willamette Homeless Initiative. That is probably the thing that I read on Facebook and the blogs and everything. It's a huge issue in the city of Salem and elsewhere around Marion County. We had a task force that completed its work in February of 2017, approved a strategic plan that was very multifaceted. I think it's about 23, maybe 26 pages of strategies. And so what did we do in Marion County to make a difference in homelessness this year? Well, first of all, in our 2017 budget, Marion County contributed $45,000 along with the City of Salem, City of Kaiser, Monmouth, and Independence to spearhead implementation of that strategic plan so that it won't be just a plan that sits on a shelf. There are things that Salem is doing that are wonderful things. There are things that Marion County is doing on our own that are wonderful things, but there are a whole lot of things in that strategic plan that just won't happen on their own if there's no entity that's kind of taking the lead. So we're doing that through COG, Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. Sean O'Day is here in the audience. He's the CEO, and I want to thank him for his work on that. Allie Treichel just started the job as the coordinator the first part of February, and she is enthusiastic, young, a go-getter, and so you may see her around, and she's going to help work on the strategic plan with the different jurisdictions. We also budgeted $60,000 to develop what I'm calling a clearinghouse of all of the services for people in need in Marion County. When we had our landlords panel that came before our task force, they said, here are people that are living in apartments that may be down on their luck, and so they're having a hard time budgeting. They don't have enough money for rent. Could we get a financial literacy class or a budgeting class to help them so they pay their rent and then they don't become homeless by being kicked out of that apartment? Where are all of those services to do that? I've heard from the doctors on the Willamette Valley Community Health Board. We need to know what the services are. So Marion County is taking the lead on that. Tamara Getch, who's our Community Services Department Director, they're in the procurement process right now, but we're really looking forward as soon as possible to be able to have that up and running, and then we'll get information out to everyone so that you'll have a one-stop shop to know what services in all different aspects, self-sufficiency, child abuse and neglect, and so on, are available in Marion County. I also wanted to mention that we got an $83,000 grant from Willamette Valley Community Health to start the LEAD program, Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. Paige Clarkson has been point on that, Deputy District Attorney. That program is included in our strategic plan for the Mid-Willamette Homeless Initiative. It's a strategy where law enforcement, when they're encountering people on the street who are homeless, are able to refer those folks to a navigator. And then instead of arresting them and putting them in the county jail, which takes up valuable space and doesn't really do us any good, to put homeless folks in jail, they actually work with those folks to get them involved in treatment. And it's been a program that has been very successful in Seattle in achieving outcomes. So we're excited to launch that and get it started. Another thing that we did is we changed our county code to allow accessory dwelling units in the unincorporated areas within the urban growth boundary. So not a solution to homelessness, but like a lot of small things together can help make a difference. George Gravenhorst has been serving on our Planning Commission for many years. Want to thank him for his service, and Planning Commission gave us some really good ideas about how to make that happen, and we've passed that. So that's something, check, that we've been able to do. Finally, we came alongside of the Community Action Agency in their plan to have a runaway and homeless shelter a shelter for runaway and homeless youth. This has been a huge gap in our community. We have teenagers on the street that have nowhere to go at night. And we're not looking at housing kids that are just upset with their parents' rules and want to run away. We're really looking at kids where there might be mom and a boyfriend and the child is kicked out of the home and they're really not under the auspices of the juvenile department. or the Department of Human Services, and they have absolutely nowhere to go. This was a top priority in the Homeless Initiative for the Public Safety Committee that our sheriff served on, and Police Chief Jerry Moore and a number of others. We had a county work group that mapped the system. Ashley Marshall, who is starting, is it next Monday that you're starting with Marion County, or 2 weeks? 2 weeks she's starting with Marion County. Really was point on that project, and also helped us continue our newsletter while we were waiting for the new staff. And she did a money map of all of the public funds that are currently going in to fight homelessness. How much money do you think it is? Any guesses? $87 million currently without new resources. So that's what's going in currently in Marion County to address homelessness, and we still have a problem. And more than half of that is from Marion County for drug treatment, mental health treatment, community corrections services, and the housing authority. And we didn't put all the money in, we prorated it on that is used to either prevent or address homelessness. Justice reinvestment is the last public safety area that I'll talk about. We have great leadership in our county. You can feel confident that the leadership that you have in public safety is probably the best in the nation, not even just the best in the state. We have Sheriff Jason Myers. We have our District Attorney Walt Beglaw. We have Jen Ziernoff, who runs our Justice Court, does an excellent job with that. Troy Gregg, who just started a few months ago, who runs our Juvenile Department. Really appreciate the hard work that they do. Marion County was awarded $3.7 million for justice reinvestment from the state for this current biennium. That's in addition to the baseline funding, and I didn't write down the number for that, but it's a whole lot more for parole and probation. We're going to continue our good work. We're diverting low-level offenders from prison. We're reducing recidivism for people who have been incarcerated. We continue to do that. And we're supporting victims of crime. So all of those are the essential parts that go together. 2 new initiatives that I want to mention that were started in 2017, but we're really going to push forward in 2018. The Stepping Up initiative, we passed a resolution on that. The sheriff's putting together a work group. That's to divert people who are mentally ill from our county jails. They just do not belong there. And the Pretrial Justice Initiative. And we heard at our Public Safety Council meeting, I think it was 70% or is it 80%? 70% of our folks in jail are there awaiting trial. Ostensibly innocent until proven guilty, right? And many of them are there because they are unable to make bail because they don't have the funds to do it. So people are in jail based on the ability to pay. That doesn't make sense. We really need to figure out who stays in jail based on whether they're going to show up for trial and whether they're a risk to the community, whether we can keep the community safe. And if we can do that with a science-based assessment, and there's a whole lot of research that we have now that we didn't have in the past, we can take those 415 jail beds and really allocate them to the people that need to be there, as opposed to just the people that are too poor to be able to make bail. So we're excited to move forward on that as well. I want to conclude my remarks. This is my last State of the County. I didn't think I'd get emotional about this. I'm in my 16th year as a county commissioner. You may have heard the rumors, and they're true, that I am not running for re-election as a county commissioner. This is the best job I have ever had. People ask me, so did you like being a state rep better than being a county commissioner? And county commissioner exceeds it by far because every day we can see the work that we do and the influence of it on the ground. I'm not just writing a bill on a piece of paper and hoping that some state agency out there somewhere will do the thing that's on the books. We have wonderful people who work here in Marion County, and working with these two guys is just amazing. I mean, it's such a blast to work with them, to come to work every day. And I'd like there are a lot of people here from Marion County that we didn't name. If you would just stand up if you work for Marion County, just quickly. There's a few of us here. Thank you all for what you do. And I will just say that you're all invited to my retirement party. It's going to be right here in this room on December 4th. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we talked about taking questions. We kind of wanted to sit down here so we didn't have to stand around the dais, but we were on Facebook Live, so I don't know. Sharome, how's that going to work? Can we sit down and you can get us? All right. So we're going to do that. Let's see if I can pull this microphone out. And Tammy Lundy's got a mic, and she will, what is that?
Just
Oh,
want
you
to
can
raise
move
your
that.
hand. If you have a question, I'll come to you with the mic.
Oh, that's better.
This question is for Kevin. With regards to the proposed project of draining the lake for the new project at the dam, when would that happen, and how would you coordinate your other efforts of dredging and making it more business friendly for the marinas at the same time?
So first of all, there were several alternatives put forward, and I want to thank the city of Salem and Staten, other cities that put forth letters to the Army Corps along with our letters, and a lot of citizens that made comment. I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, you think about in 2015. Well, the proposal is that right now, the next thing we should see is in October of fall of this year, we should see the Army Corps come back with a preferred draft proposal, what they're going to do. They've got alternatives. One of them is to do it all in wet, have divers go down and do this thing. That's really dangerous, and there's a lot of complications to that. But the concern that we all have sitting in this room is in 2015, if you remember that drought, they were 2 days away in October from not being able to produce power. The water level was this is elevation, 1,425 feet is after. It goes below that, they got to cut off generating power. The water level then was at 1,425 in October of 2015. Then it started to rain and we got out of it. They're proposing to take it down to 1,300 feet. To do this project. If at 1,300 feet, I don't know how you supply, and Salem was real close to losing their water supply because they get it out at Staten. I don't know how you have enough water for the summer to take care of drinking water for 200,000 people, processing for our food processors, irrigation for our agricultural community, fish in the stream. I don't know how they're going to come up with solutions to that. So it'll be interesting, but their proposal is to come out in October with the preferred alternative, get more input to that, and then I think put out design, construction, and I think they're talking about 2021 or 2022 for the actual project to take place. And by the way, if you don't know this, the Minto collection facility that's right below the dam, they spent $30 million on that. Army Corps does. They collect every salmon that comes up and they truck them above the dam and release them in the North Santiam and the Brighton Bush. Currently, they're getting 1 fish back for every fish they put through. They need 3 to 4 fish is what they claim per fish to restore the population. So that's what this is all about. It's the lawsuit from the environmentalists.
Kevin or Sam, you mentioned an extension of the Aurora Airport. My question immediately was, what about the Salem Airport and extension or commercial lines coming in?
Here's what I say as a Marion County Commissioner, and I never ignore the city of Salem because we have a really good asset at this airport here. I don't know about the commercial air service. I know we had a discussion at SEDCOR exec meeting last month about what that would be. The Aurora Airport is a totally different asset. We're not competing against Salem because that's serving Wilsonville. And in fact, I got the letter right here. The Clackamas County Commissioners oppose the extension of the runway. The city of Wilsonville City Council opposed the extension of the runway. That's what we're battling politically down here. And I just say fine because it's in Marion County. We're gonna figure this out. And I've been around this building long enough. We'll figure out a way to get it done. They can go. Never mind. So I am running for re-election. He may not be, but. So that extension is really important to the corporate aircrafts that take off and land there. And the city of Woodburn, just Monday night, it was at their city council. They submitted a letter of support because they just brought in all this new industrial area. They see that airport as an asset to attract business to come into the city of Woodburn. So city of Salem, we'll help any way we can with the city of Salem. But they're two different assets, and we don't see them as, I mean, obviously there may be some overlap or competition, but we're not looking for commercial commercial traffic up there. I hope that answers your question.
Just staying on the economic development theme, you mentioned, the heritage of agriculture in Marion County. I'm just curious what efforts the commissioner are looking at creating value-added food products that's enfranchising, small communities. I mean, Turner has, 20,000 acres of land outside, that's in the county, people growing all kinds of things. What's the kind of partnerships we can build so that things are being produced and value-added in our town that can support the economy of the agricultural industry?
So I'm going to repeat something I think is really important because Sarah Spinks is in the back room, and I want everybody to make sure they fill it. Huh?
Back table, not back room.
Back table. Sarah's been working on this broadband. Make sure you get this broadband out because that's going to be important for what you just said, David. If we're going to have any kind of technology and advanced processing, we're going to have internet broadband service in those places. It's part of our strategic plan is to look at the technology that we can do to add value because we need to process, obviously, and harvest to be competitive in technology. But whatever ideas we have, one of the things about our land use in Oregon is if you can put processing in EFU land, you can put manufacturing of farm equipment in EFU land. So if we have EFU land that's close to a city where we could do that, there's a potential that we can add that. I'll give you an example. So Stephan Hay Systems is out off of Howell Prairie. They manufacture these hay presses that are all over the world, and they're in EFU land. So those are the types of things that are very possible with existing land use. So we could do that.
I liked it when he's talking. I just sit here and listen. But Alicia is here from Extension Service, and that's a big part of that question too. And we're supporting those and the development of different crops, different products, different techniques. So we spend a lot and want to support them a lot. Maybe we don't spend enough. I see it in your eyes. But that's a big part of it.
Hey guys, Janet, I want to thank you for all your service and not just the years at the county, but as we move forward, and this question is for you, adolescent mental health is a real crisis in our community, but also in our country. And right now, the numbers, if you look at them as you probably have, for kids who are experiencing depression or committing suicide have gone up astronomically. So could you share a little bit more about what your thoughts are about how the county will engage around mental health, but more specifically around adolescent mental health?
Sure, thanks, Teresa, and appreciate your kind words too. Mental health, we have really amazing mental health services in Marion County. We have been a leader in the state in our partnerships for between mental health and public safety. For children, we have a panel of providers through the Mid-Valley Behavioral Care Network, and one of the contracts is with Options Counseling. They do quite a bit of counseling for youth. Also, the Marion County Health Department does a lot of children's mental health services. What we didn't have, and this came through that system of care committee that I talked about, was a crisis service for youth. We've had the Psychiatric Crisis Center for 20 years, something like that, a long time. And what happened was, as I understand it, parents would call late at night, and they would call their provider, and their provider would be off, and they'd get an answering service, and then the answering service would say, well, why don't you take your child to the Psychiatric Crisis Center? Well, it's down on the hospital, it's in Lott, it's in if you've been down there, they actually are committing to get new space, but it's really lousy space right now. And it's really not appropriate for a child to be mixing with mentally ill individuals that are on the street, like at midnight or 11 o'clock at night. And so that was just unacceptable. So it was through the Behavioral Care Network and the System of Care Committee that we started a new youth children's crisis system right now in Marion County. It launched, I'm trying to think, it was late fall, September. And I don't have my reading glasses on, so I can't see that. But the Marion County Health Department took the lead on it, so they've got workers there, I think till 10 at night. Is that right? And then they are able to do phone triage with the families. And if that doesn't work, they actually can send people out, right? A team goes out to the home and helps. So it may not answer all of the issues that we're talking about. And I mean, there's suicides, there's school shootings. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on with youth. Opioid use, some crazy things that they're doing in terms of, I mean, you think that when we were kids, we kind of figured out all of the crazy things to do, but it seems like I'm always reading about things that kids are figuring out to do that are even crazier. And in some ways, you want to educate and prevent, and I think that we do a lot of education in our schools. We certainly could probably do more. I know the health department has been working on partnerships with. They primarily had partnerships, I think, was with Woodburn and North Marion, but Salem Kaiser, Christy Perry has really been committed to put mental health services in the schools and is working really closely with the health department to do that. So we're working on it on a lot of fronts, but certainly recognize that there's more that needs to be done.
Thank you, Janet. This is, again, I'd like to echo my appreciation for your work, but my question is, have you recruited anyone with comparable experience and passion and energy to step up to the plate? And have these two, somebody that also has the middle school experience to deal with those two?
Well, I was a junior high teacher for a number of years, and I have often said that everything I learned in my career, I learned teaching junior high. You start at the beginning, you tell good stories, you relate it, you make sure that everybody kind of understands things, but I have not recruited someone. There are several people running for county commissioner. I have endorsed one of them. And probably not appropriate for me to say it at this SEDCOR lunch, but it'd be really easy for you to find out by looking at the websites of the people running, and you can look for my name. So
We have time for one more, if you want to raise your hand. Okay.
Questions about the third bridge. What is the regional impact, and if it isn't built, what does that mean to our county?
Let's get Sam off his bike and then he'll tell you.
Well, I tried to explain just that. The regional impact is to make sure that goods and people can travel through a center. This isn't a commuter bridge. Polk County, Kaiser, Marion County, we see it as that regional nature is what always we've been trying to push. So if it doesn't happen, we stagnate. We continue to have more congestion. People don't move here. This area doesn't thrive. These are the things I fear, and I really believe will happen.
Well, it is clear that the state of our county is strong. And sorry, folks on Facebook. There are a lot of people at home going, ah! And like economic development, strong government and strong counties are about community. And so I'd like to thank Commissioners Brentano, Cameron, and Carlson, and I'd like to thank all of the people who are with them here today from the county for making it strong, and our commissioners for letting us know how strong it is. Thank you. And with that, the February forum of the Strategic Economic Development Corporation is adjourned. Thank you.